It's time to bring out the executive director of the Santa Barbara International Film Festival, Roger Durling.
Well, first of all, thank you to Scott. I mean, he's such a great friend of the film festival and an incredible moderator. Thank you for doing this tonight.
Thank you, Scott.
And I've always said that I love film. You guys all know how much I love film, but I love theater just as much. And I've always felt that it's an incredible sign of wonderful talent when you see an actor being masterful on stage and on film as well. And I've had the great fortune of seeing Casey and Michelle twice in Cabaret and also as well in Blackbird, and the latter was one of the most pulverizing performances I've ever seen. 90 minutes that I was literally floored, and you know, thank you, Michelle. Kenny, I've seen Kenny Lonergan, the writer-director of Manchester by the Sea. I saw in 1996, This Is Our Youth, 2002, Lobby Hero, and The Starry Messenger in 2009. And I want to read you some of the reviews that this play's got, because they speak so much about, as well, about Manchester by the Sea. This Is Our Youth said, "It's not easy to find love and humor in the middle of nowhere, but with the skill of Lonergan's, even somewhere can be special." About Lobby Hero, a critic wrote, "You can tell it's good because within about 5 minutes, any sense of you being a member of an audience is completely vanished." And about The Starry Messenger, the New York Times wrote, "It reestablishes Lonergan as a possessor of all the crucial parts of a good dramatist: anatomy, a critical mind, an emphatic heart, and a musical ear that hears whole lives in sentences." Please welcome one of the greatest writers, directors of plays and movies working today, Kenny Lonergan.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for that very generous, I might say, overly generous introduction. There's a couple of things you might not be able to tell from about Casey and Michelle listening to them this evening. You know, you might notice they're both a little on the quiet side, and so you wouldn't know to look at them that they're, when they go to work, that they're capable of this incredible eruption of emotion and specificity and transformation and humor. What you also don't know is how difficult it is for them each to sit here and watch clips of themselves. During the looping sessions of this movie, each of them came in to do a couple of little lines of dialogue that weren't clear in the recorded film, and Casey walked, and neither of them had seen any of the film yet, and this is when we were just looping the movie, and they had to come in and overdub some dialogue that didn't come out clearly, and it was funny because they came in within a week of each other, and Casey came in and walked into the little sound studio, and he was projected up there with Lucas Hedges, and he watched less than 5 seconds of himself, and it was the line was, "I don't give a shit what you do." And we rolled it, and he said on screen, "I don't give a shit what you do." And the real Casey said, "Well, that sucked." And I said, "It did not suck, you're crazy." And about a week later, Michelle came in and watched herself say, "Did you see Jupiter?" And she said, "Oh, that was terrible." And that's kind of what they're like. They don't like watching themselves, and they don't even love talking about themselves. But they're it's a little hard to describe the relationship that you have with actors of their caliber when you're working with them. It's like a love affair that like none other, because you know what they do for a living and what I do for a living, or what we're lucky enough to do what we love most, which is a really lucky thing in life. And so when you're collaborating with an actor about a character you've made up and that they are inventing in front of your eyes and they're becoming in front of your eyes, it's like one of the most important parts of what's inside of you connecting with one of the most important parts of what's inside of them. And when you spend that time together, both sharing that same emotional and creative and imaginary space, when I and Casey try to figure out what it's like to be Lee Chandler, and when Michelle and I try to figure out what it's like to be Randy Chandler, that's a connection that I know is just, it's a little hard to describe how deep and important it is, and it's one of the most wonderful things about this kind of work. You know, there are all kinds of actors, there are all kinds of good actors. There are actors who are, Sanford Meisner, the great acting teacher, said that acting is truthful behavior under imaginary circumstances. But I would refine it further to say that really great acting is behavior that is truthful to imaginary circumstances, because when you see these performances, and as we've seen tonight, they don't just show up and emote. They show up and emote. They show up and they're so specific, both intellectually and emotionally, to the parts that they're playing. They're so true to what they're doing. It was an amazing experience to be working steadily with Casey in the 32 days that we shot this film, and then having Michelle come in and out the whole time, because I knew she was working on it the whole time too, as they both described. I'll just give you a couple of short examples of what it's like to work with them. Michelle spent a tremendous amount of time and work and thought on the transition, Randy's transition from before the tragedy and after the tragedy, and all the time we were shooting other scenes, and she was in New York and going back and forth between New York and New England, she would send me pictures of coats that she might wear. She had this brilliant idea of Randy's, the armor that Randy would require to go out into the world after she'd lost her family, and the courage that took, and how much more difficult it would be for her to, you know, in the early parts of the film, she's pretty casual. She doesn't spend a lot of time on her appearance. She's busy with her family. She's sick in bed, and it's not something she worries about. In order to go back out in the world, she really changes her hair. She changes her clothes. Her body language is different. And Michelle would just send me photographs of these different kinds of hairstyles, different kinds of clothes. And this may sound like a superficial element, but it's really not, because how you dress and how you present yourself is a very big, important part of who you are, especially after you've been through something like that. And so to have that discussion going on through the phone and through the computer while I'm having the discussions with Casey on set every day about the scenes that he's doing was really, really interesting. The other thing about them is their generosity with each other and with their scene partners is incredible. They both talk a lot about how much they relied on each other, and it's really, really true. The most exciting thing to watch actors do is to watch the spontaneous spark that crops up between them when they're shooting a scene or when they're playing a scene. And it's something, there are great actors who give great showboat single performances, and everybody else around them kind of goes away, and you kind of watch them do their thing. And I think a higher level is the level that Casey and Michelle attain, which is to really involve themselves with the other people, to really be open and generous and giving. The other thing about them, I think it's worth saying, is that they're both incredibly nice people. They're both incredibly kind people. They're both very thoughtful. They're both very committed to being kind and collaborative. I don't think I would have made it through the shoot without Casey. It was a grueling shoot. It was a very emotional shoot. It was a very difficult story to tell, and it was told under not terrible duress, but serious scheduling and financial constrictions and long, long hours. And I'm not the most resilient person in the world. And Casey just was always there for me. Even though he had this tremendous Herculean task to perform and this immense emotional journey to take, he always had time to help me out and to encourage me and to be there for me. And I'll always be grateful to you for that, Casey. Always, always. Before I give them their awards, I'll tell you one quick story, because there's a it's a movie that goes to some dark places, and one thing we all learned, I think, about the film was that we started out making a film about grief, and I think we ended up realizing that we were making a film about love and kindness, because the characters, what I love most about the performances, and what I love most about their relationship, the two characters, is the immense kindness and love that they have for each other. And that's what I think carries the movie through, and that's what I hope people are responding to, because nobody needs us to tell them about grief. But I think it's nice to be reminded how great people are when they're under duress and when their loved ones are under duress. So we're in the middle of making this very emotionally big movie, and there's a scene where Casey and Lucas are sitting at the table, and Casey's to tell him that he can't be his guardian, and it's a very hard scene. It was a very tough moment for everybody. We were up very late. We'd been shooting 14 hours, I think, and it was late at night, and we were having a little trouble getting to the scene, and I watched it's just one of those moments that reminds you that you're also always just putting on a show, like, with the barn and the costumes and the kids and the lights and everything. And when you watch the dailies, you see the two actors on the set, and then they break, and you sometimes hear your own voice giving helpful suggestions off camera, or not such helpful suggestions. And I said, so Casey and Lucas did the scene, and then they stopped, and the camera's still rolling. And I said, and I heard myself say off camera, Casey, why don't we start again, and why don't you just start looking down at the plate and then look up? And Casey said, oh, the old stare at the plate bit. Which is one of my very favorite jokes, because it's, I don't know, it's still just a movie, if you know what I mean. I love them very much. I'm very proud to be associated with you. I think you've given everybody a tremendous gift with these performances, and it's a real pleasure to present you both with the Cinema Vanguard Award.
My microphone's still on? I don't know. Yes. Would you like to say something first?
Gosh, thanks. I have to tell a kind of funny story. My daughter, when she asked where I was going again this weekend, I said, oh, I'm going to Santa Barbara and I'm getting an award. And she said, oh, Mommy, finally, you're going to get one? She said, I'm so happy for you because you've spent a lot of time not getting the award. So what I want you to do, Mommy, is when you get up there, I want you to say to all the girls who didn't get the award, I want you to say, I know how this feels. I know how you feel right now. It's okay. You're still going to have a really fun night. And I'm sorry that I get this award and you don't get this award, but you're great and congratulations and thanks for being here. And so I can't say that tonight. But thanks anyway to the Santa Barbara Film Festival. And to these guys. I got a lot of bad advice in my life, which is why I wound up leaving home at 15 and school and becoming an actress in Hollywood. But I remember one really good piece of advice I got, which was that you should always play sports. You should always play your sport with people who are better than you are, because it's the only way to improve. And it's never been more true than working with you guys. So, thanks.
Very nice. I'm not sure if you're talking about you, but...
Me, I think.
Yeah, boy, it feels like it's been a really long night, and I'm sure you can all stay standing. That I'll know you're still awake. I also would like to thank the Santa Barbara International Film Festival. It's I'll make this brief. But I was, we started in Sundance over a year ago, and it's been a very long time, and this is our last film festival, because we've done them all, unless there's something on the moon. We've been to many different countries and around the United States, and it's, so it is really nice to end it here at home in Southern California, for me anyway, not for you guys. And there's a couple things I was thinking about that I learned, and I'm not going to bore you to death. I'll try to make it as fast as I can, but seeing as this is the last time we'll be talking about this movie, there's something I wanted to say, because we've talked a lot about it, and I've learned a couple things. One is that I hate the sound of my own voice. And the other is that it's astonishingly, this little simple thing that I should have learned long ago, I finally realized why I act, and people have asked me that a lot, and it's just occurred to me now, and watching these clips going back some years, despite the horror of it, being confronted with the choices that you made back then, it brought to mind when I was very young, my father was a terrible alcoholic, and so when I was very young, my mother would take us to these what we call Alateen meetings, which is she'd drive us across town to a church, and we'd sit in this room with other kids we didn't know, and the people who were running it would sort of walk us through these exercises of basically reenacting what was happening at home. And so you'd watch these other kids, behaving like their drunk mom or dad, and yelling and throwing things and hitting them and so forth. And then you get up and do your thing. And I was 9 years old, and that was, I guess, the first acting that I ever did. And it was therapy, but it was, but it was also drama. It was drama and it was therapy. And acting for me has sort of been that ever since, sort of taking the things from your life and putting them to use in some way. So I think the reason that I've been an actor is that my mother took me to those meetings, and thank God for her, and thank God that I've had this. It feels like a great privilege to have spent my life basically doing that thing, and that is because of other people. So I'm very grateful to the people who sit down for 3 years and labor over a screenplay in order to dignify and honor the kind of sorrows and joys and struggles of an everyday person, and then bring it to the screen, which is another gigantic task, and they put themselves into that, and to the actors who are, bringing their own pasts to work every day, and in such a committed and brave way. And so I'm grateful to all the people who still want to see movies and love movies and write about movies and watch movies and go to them, and because it lets us do what we do. And for me, it's necessary, and acting has been a lifeline for me in that way. So I've figured that out over the last year of talking about this movie a little bit, and I'm 41, and I should have known it a long time ago, but so this is really an honor, and it's a special night. Thank you all very much. I hope that you all get a chance to someday stand on a stage and talk about the work that you do, because it's nice to be able to share that, and I know it might be very tedious and boring at times for the listener, but thanks for sticking with it and letting us share everything that we've been doing.